Good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 14th. I want to talk to a particular set of people today. Some of you are more anxious about this virus thing that's going on. Some of you are afraid, even to the point of constant worry, and you can think of very little else. There are times when you are very near panic in your own mind. I want to talk to you today about that. While I hope that this message is of value to everyone, and perhaps you might be able to pass this on to others, for those of you who are most anxious right now, it is to you that I would like to speak. I know that this is a very real time of anxiety. Anxiety. Let me read you a definition of what anxiety is. Anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. Well, let's be real about this. We are facing a situation now that certainly, on many levels, warrants some anxiety. There are a lot of reasons why people are very anxious right now. And if you are feeling particularly anxious, I want you to understand that it's okay that you are feeling that. Now, you don't have to live in that situation. But what we are facing is very serious, and I don't want to dismiss that. To dismiss that makes too little of what is actually going on. Nationally, now, as of now, there have been 600,000 cases of people with this virus. Now, that sounds like a lot, but in terms of a nation of 350 million people, that may not be a real high percentage. As a matter of fact, it's still a very low percentage. But it's very real. A lot of people are getting sick. We have had over 20,000 deaths nationally. In Oklahoma, there have been over 2,000 people that have contracted this illness, and we've had over 100 deaths. Now, they're telling us that the next 7 days are going to be the worst in our state, that we're going to peak out sometime around April 21st, which would be a week from today. And the numbers that they are projecting for that, we are certainly hoping are not correct, because they're projecting a lot more deaths and a lot more people getting the disease. But that is just a projection. And other projections that have been made have been proven to be dramatically overstated. Nevertheless, we are facing a very serious situation. But while some seem to be going about their lives and seem to be handling this just right, others are barricaded in their homes. They're hiding from a virus, as is appropriate on a lot of levels. But some of you are truly afraid, even to the point of being paralyzed in your own thinking. First of all, let me tell you that you're not alone. There are a lot of people that are feeling this kind of anxiety right now. More and more, it seems, as time goes on, because we're tired of this. And a lot of people are feeling anxious because of the endurance of this event. Let me also tell you, you're not losing your mind. You're not crazy. It is simply a time of anxiety. And you're coping with a lot right now that you may not have known how to handle. And let me also say, with a strong probability that you're probably not going to get this virus. The percentage of people that are actually getting this virus is very small. And so most of us never are going to have to deal with this. And then, by far, the vast majority of those are, once they are diagnosed with this virus, they're sick for a few days and then they get better. Very, very few are actually going to the hospital. And so there are some aspects of this that may not seem as bleak, or they may not actually be as bleak as they have seemed. I want to remind you also that there have been many other times in our history where things have felt like they just could not possibly have any positive ending. Oh, I could go through the history of what we went through as a nation, starting with our Revolutionary War, going through a Civil War, which, let me say, if there was ever an oxymoron, that's it, Civil War. We lost more people in that war than we lost in all the other wars that we have fought combined. It was a time of terrible division in the nation. The nation was divided, families were divided, and it seemed very uncertain about how we could possibly even survive this situation. But the truth is that we did survive. We came out stronger on the other side of that event. After each of those conflicts, we came out stronger. And then there was the pandemic of the Spanish flu in 1918 and 1919. It is estimated that a third of the world's population got the flu during that period of time. 50 million people died worldwide. 675,000 Americans died, and this was when the population of our country was less than a third of what it is today. No one could see how we could possibly survive that situation, but we did survive. World War I and World War II were each bleak moments in our history. The Great Depression was a bleak moment in our history. The Dust Bowl in our part of the country was a bleak moment in our part of the country. And yet in each of those situations, we survived. We came out stronger. The division in our country in the late 60s and early 70s was terrible. Vietnam was claiming 100 lives a week for a while. And the civil rights riots that were going on at that time were burning our American cities. And we suffered 3 major assassinations during that period of time. And many of us at that time felt like, how can we possibly survive this? But we did. We survived because we are a resilient people. The point is that terrible things happen, but within a resilient people, there is a strength that allows us to not only survive, but as Romans 8 tells us, we become overwhelmingly conquerors through him who loved us. We have in all of those situations survived, and we will survive this as well. I suspect that each of us individually, if we're old enough, can look back on other difficult moments in our lives, and we weren't sure how we were going to get through it. Many of us have gone through periods of time that we just thought, how in the world can I survive this? And yet we did. We survive because we have available to us a great strength that goes beyond anything that the world is offering in opposition to that strength. And I might also say, as Christians, what if we didn't? What if we don't survive? What if I happen to get this disease and die? Does that mean that I have been defeated? Absolutely, it does not mean that. Does not God hold us in his hands regardless of what happens? So I would like to urge you to think about 2 different responses to this crisis. First of all is what we can do about it. And the second one is what God is doing with it. What you can do right now is pretty plain. First of all, let me urge you to identify your level of anxiety. And if you are one who is really being overwhelmed by this, we do need to talk. The phones are still working, and we can talk about these things. There are others with whom you can talk as well. And we need to simply share what's going on in our own minds. Identify that, because when it's held in, the anxiety seems to be much worse. When we actually give words to our anxiety, it seems to calm the situation. And then, obviously, we do what we can do to take our precautions. You've heard about the precautions everywhere. We hear about them multiple times a day. You stay away from people as much as you can. You wash your hands. 200 or 300 times a day. That's an exaggeration, almost. But we take precautions. We do what we can to keep the virus away from us. I might also say that if you are stuck at home and you are particularly worried about this, use up some of that anxiety energy in cleaning. You're doing something that is a direct help in getting that virus away if it happens to have penetrated your household. But you're also using up that energy in a very positive way, and you end up with a good outcome as well. But I would also urge you to do this. Stay away from the TV. The TV produces more anxiety than it brings peace. That's why they are there. They are there for the ratings, the sensationalism of the moment, and it draws people in to make you think that indeed things are absolutely worse than they really are. So if you are particularly anxious, turn off the TV, or at least stay away from the 24-hour news cycle that just gives us doom and gloom. You can turn on to more positive things, or you can listen to music, or you can do something else that diverts that anxiety. And then I would also urge you to simply believe God. Let me read you 3 passages of Scripture very briefly. Proverbs 12:25. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs it down, but a good word makes it glad. There's a cure for anxiety. 1 Peter 5:6 and 7. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you at the proper time, casting all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you. Cast your anxiety on God. Don't keep it to yourself. Cast your anxiety on God. Why? Because he, mighty God, cares for you. And then in Philippians 4:6, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. God knew that we were going to have times of anxiety, and he provided us a way out with that instruction. But then let me also point out the other side, what God is doing with this. You remember Romans 8:28? It's a favorite passage of a lot of people. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. God can take the very worst of things and turn them into good outcomes. We, every week, when we come together, we celebrate the death and the burial and the resurrection of Jesus. Is that not taking the very worst moment in the history of mankind and turning it into the very best moment in the history of mankind? Well, if God did that then, he can also do that with much more minor crises as we are facing right now. He can take the worst of situations and give us a positive outcome. He has already, in this, he has given us perhaps some time to reconsider what is really important in our lives. He has demonstrated his very healing power on his creation itself. Did you know right now the air is cleaner and the water is cleaner than it has been in decades, because so much human activity has been called to a halt? The earth has shown its healing power. This is the mighty healing power of God's hand. His very creation is resilient, and you are a part of that creation. He has reminded us of how important we are to each other. We miss each other. We want to be back together, in spite of the fact that some are advocating that we never shake hands anymore. Well, we're not going to heed that. We are not only a handshaking people, we are a hugging people, and we're going to get back to that. There are going to be those times of human contact that we have, that we are able to spend time with each other, not 6 feet apart, but spend time with each other and enjoy each other and worship with each other. We are important, We're designed to be people who are important to one another. And those times are coming back. And it probably is not going to be all that long before that actually starts to happen. I want to remind you that God continues to hold us in his loving embrace. He gives us peace. He gives us assurance. And he has reminded us of his ultimate control. This virus is not stronger than God. So, Christian, be at peace. Know that you are loved. Take one day at a time, and this day, which is the only day that we have, this day, go and make it a good day. Bye for now.